South Africa and its film industry managed to forge a reputation as a great place to make movies, make sceneries. It's not just because of the scenery, but also of the local expertise that's required when it comes to making movies, making television. But now Donald Trump, he's imposed 100% tariffs on all movies produced outside of the United States. But listen to this. Between November 2023 and June 2024, foreign film production investments in South Africa total 2.5 billion rand. There are some projections that this could exceed 5 billion come October this year. But I speak now to Bobby Amm, who's the CEO of the Commercial Producers Association of South Africa, about the potential impact on the industry if Donald Trump's plans are pushed through. Good morning, Bobby. Really appreciate your time. Maybe you could just give us a starting point of how Hollywood works, or should I say, how do the mostly American TV series and movies, how that business works, particularly if a movie or a series is shot in a different country, South Africa, for example, mimicking, say, an alleyway in Brooklyn, or even a Wild West scene, which we've had shot here at Cape Town Film Studios before. Good morning.
Good morning, Lester, and hello to your listeners. Yes, I mean, Hollywood, as we know, is an absolutely huge industry. It makes thousands of films and television series every year, and it's really, really busy at most times. Now, of course, as we know, a lot is actually shot in the U.S., but there's a lot of production that's shot in other countries. So as you mentioned, South Africa is one of the favorites amongst producers in Hollywood. They also look at countries like Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and also Eastern Europe and South America. I mean, the biggest thing I think is that, people who go and see movies or watch movies on their screens at home, they want to see interesting places. They don't only want to see America. So it makes a lot of sense for producers to incorporate all sorts of exotic locations in their films, because that's something that's particularly attractive to viewers. And of course, it's interesting with the streamers like Netflix. They commission a lot of content in other countries because they've realized that people are not necessarily only interested in what happens in the US. They want to see a slice of life or some of the culture of other interesting countries. I mean, you think of Argentina. I myself have watched several series on Netflix over the last couple of months that are set in all sorts of interesting places. So that's very much part of Netflix's model, as a streamers. And this is the big question now, is how is this all going to impact what happens in America, but more importantly for us, what happens here in South Africa.
But it's not just about also location, even set or studio work. American shows and movies could even be shot elsewhere. And this is, at the end of the day, it's about the bottom line. It's about how much a producer invests within a production and how much they can get back. So even popular American shows could even be shot on set in countries like Ireland because it's simply cheaper for the producers to do so.
Absolutely, that's true. And I mean, there's also the factor, obviously, of content that is produced by other countries. I mean, so if you look at our local film industry, we are producing films here that producers hope to distribute in the US. So because they too have been made outside America, they would also attract this 100% tariff. So that's also concerning for all producers around the world who are actually making their own films, reflecting their own stories and their own culture, that now suddenly it's going to become much more expensive for American viewers to actually see that content. So as you say, it's not just filmmaking that happens in South Africa or in Cape Town for Americans, but also our local stories and local content that we want to actually export to America. Both seemingly will be impacted by this if of course, it actually happens and it goes through.
So what the Trump administration actually wants to do is it wants to force the hand of American TV and filmmakers, the producers, to say, you have to make these in America, even if it may not be financially viable for them. What's going to be the impact on the South African industry if we have fewer shows produced? The local industry is already employing people in the tens of thousands.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to obviously have an impact the question is at the moment, like, how is it actually going to work? Of course, no one knows the answer to that question. But say hypothetically it were to happen and anything filmed in another country was to be levied with a hefty tariff of 100%. The immediate effect, obviously, is that it would make production in South Africa twice as expensive as it currently is, because not only would you be paying 100% of your production costs, but you'd have to pay the import duty as well. And of course, that wouldn't fall on us, that would fall on the American producers. So suddenly it would become a lot more expensive for them to actually make their film. As we know, I mean, America has wanted to keep production at home, as they say, for many, many years. For about the last 20 or 30 years, they're becoming increasingly aware that because other countries offer better value for money, offer film incentives, production has been moving out of America, and we know that the industry in LA has shrunk by about 40% over the years. But having said that, they still do the huge bulk of the work, and their exports as a film industry far exceed their imports. So it's not like the industry is completely in the doldrums and nothing is happening. They are making a lot of content that they are exporting free of charge. We are not charging them import duties. So they've actually got a positive balance at this point. Yeah. So it's surprising that he's come with this argument.
The film industry is actually a really good example of what is labeled as an American product, but with international manufacturing. And we can use an example for an iPhone, maybe American IP, but it's produced in either India or in China, and that's a lot of Hollywood. Yes, the IP, yes, the producers may be in the United States, but the bulk of that film, of that TV show, has international influences, whether it be someone who's working on crew, whether it's someone who's working on craft services, or whether it's someone who's doing sound and lighting. Television and films are largely international efforts.
Absolutely, and I mean that's the beauty of our industry in Cape Town, which has been so robust over so many years. There's so many suppliers in our supply chain as production companies. As you say, everything from a crew member to someone who's making coffee on set. There are thousands of people and hundreds of different companies that supply all of those services. So, that is really the concern, is if the work suddenly moves offshore, what is going to happen to those people? Look, it's not all doom and gloom, because obviously not all of our work is American. A portion is. Certainly with feature films, a lot come from American studios, but there is a lot of other work coming, from Europe, from India. So there is work, but it will significantly impact the industry. The biggest issue that we have, of course, is that most people who work in the industry are freelancers, meaning they go from, one job to the next, and there isn't employment sort of certainty. So obviously the less work you have, and if some of these really nice big feature films and TV series are removed, suddenly people may find a situation where they don't have the work that they traditionally had. And of course that's going to make it more difficult for them to survive, particularly during the Cape Town winter when there's not as much filming, obviously because of the rainfall. And then how do they survive on an industry that's actually shrinking? So that's our very immediate concern is for suppliers and for crew and talent who really rely on this industry for their livelihood.
Yeah. Look, I accept that we've largely been on American diets for many, many years now, but I have also seen a growth in British, Irish, even Indian productions being filmed in South Africa. For example, Turkish telenovela industry seems to be very robust on South African TV. Do you see our general appetites for content moving away from American themed shows or content?
Definitely. I mean, I think that is something we're really starting to see a lot of, as I say. I mean, now suddenly, shows that were produced in faraway countries, I mean, even think of South Korea, are suddenly available to us as audiences. So it's amazing how, things like the Squid Games, Parasite coming out of South Korea, we're very popular. So we're developing an appetite for different type of content, and I think that's a very good thing. I mean, I think the other positive is that the rest of the world is in this together. Every country that makes films is now grappling with this new reality that's arrived on our doorstep. So we are not alone. So I think that's also encouraging, because I think there is definitely this
Yeah.
kind of robust exchange of cultures and ideas that the rest of the world really welcomes. And America now is the outlier, which is possibly a good thing for us.
Question here from one of our listeners. Does it mean less content coming out of the United States if producers in the US says, well, you know what, it's not going to make business sense for us, so we're going to fund fewer projects. It means fewer writers are going to write, fewer directors are going to direct, and we generally may see less content coming out of the US.
Yes, I think so. I mean, also don't forget it's going to make production a lot more expensive for American studios and streamers because they come to other countries because of their good incentives, because they are more cost effective like South Africa. So now Trump is effectively forcing them to produce their work at home, but he's not doing anything to actually introduce incentives or to make the cost of production cheaper. So suddenly studios are going to find that to make the same film is suddenly going to cost them much, much more. And they're obviously not going to be happy about that. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a bit of a pushback from the industry in the US to say to Trump, we get where you're coming from, but this is actually the wrong way to go about this. And, hopefully that'll work in our favor because they very much want to produce content around the world. So it's within their interest to continue to actually do so. So I think he's going to realize before too long that, what he obviously sees as a good intention hasn't really been thought through. And that's our biggest problem here.
Bobby Amm, really appreciate your time. CEO of CPASA, the Commercial Producers Association of South Africa.